We often think relationships fail because the love fades. But that's not entirely true. Love doesn't just vanish. What really happens is something more subtle, more human, and often more preventable. Relationships fail because we forget why we started. We lose the why behind the what. We get so caught up in daily life, responsibilities, and routines that we stop asking ourselves, what are we building together? What's the purpose? Too many people build relationships on a spark, on chemistry, and while the spark feels amazing in the beginning, it's not built to last on its own. The real question isn't whether you have chemistry. The real question is, are you compatible when the excitement fades? Do you communicate with the same language of love, of values, of life goals? Because when the rush is gone, what you're left with is reality, and that's where true connection is tested. When relationships fail, most people assume it's because love has disappeared, that the feelings simply aren't there anymore. But love is rarely the real problem. Love at its core is a powerful and enduring force. What causes relationships to crumble is not the absence of love, but the absence of a shared purpose. When two people come together, there is an initial excitement, a chemistry, a magnetic pull that feels undeniable. But this spark alone can't sustain a relationship through the everyday challenges, the hardships, or the inevitable moments of doubt and frustration. What holds a relationship together over time is a deep sense of shared purpose. It's the why behind the relationship that matters more than the what. Why are you together? What do you want to build? What do you stand for? When these questions remain unanswered or are ignored, the relationship loses its foundation. Love without purpose is like a ship without a compass. It drifts aimlessly, vulnerable to storms and obstacles. Shared purpose isn't just about lofty ideals or grand dreams. It's about the connection and commitment to a common direction. It could be building a family, supporting each other's growth, creating a safe and loving home, or simply choosing to face life's challenges as a team. Whatever that purpose is, it must be understood, embraced, and nurtured by both partners. When couples share this purpose, it becomes their anchor during difficult times. It gives meaning to sacrifice, patience, and forgiveness. It makes the hard days bearable and the joyful days even sweeter. Without shared purpose, partners often begin to feel isolated, even when they're physically together. They may love each other, but their hearts are pulling them in different directions. One person might prioritize career growth, while the other seeks more emotional intimacy. One might want to settle down, and the other craves freedom and adventure. When those priorities aren't aligned or openly discussed, the relationship starts to unravel. It's not because love has disappeared, it's because the roadmaps don't match. Two people can deeply care for each other, yet feel like strangers because they no longer share a vision for the future. This lack of alignment can breed frustration, resentment, and confusion. Each partner wonders why the relationship feels distant or unsatisfying. Even though the affection is still there, they might blame themselves or each other. But the root cause is something deeper, a missing or unclear shared purpose. Relationships demand clarity and intentionality. They require partners to continuously ask themselves, are we still heading in the same direction? And what does our relationship mean to us now? The absence of shared purpose often shows up in subtle ways before it causes outright failure. Communication becomes strained because the conversations no longer revolve around shared dreams or mutual goals. Decisions about money, time, family, or lifestyle feel like battles because the underlying reasons for those choices aren't agreed upon. The emotional intimacy that once felt so natural now feels like a performance, something done out of obligation rather than genuine connection. What's powerful, though, is that discovering or rediscovering shared purpose is always possible. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and courage. It means sitting down together and talking not just about surface-level issues, but about values, dreams, and fears. It means asking difficult questions and really listening to the answers. When couples take the time to realign on their why, something remarkable happens. Love no longer feels like just a feeling. It becomes a shared mission. Purpose gives love direction, clarity, and strength. It turns two individuals into a team. And this team is what withstands the trials of life, grows through change, and builds a connection that lasts. When a relationship has a clear shared purpose, love becomes more than just an emotion. It becomes a choice and a commitment to something greater than themselves. So the next time you feel that love is fading or that the relationship is struggling, don't look only at the feelings, look deeper. Ask yourselves what you're building together. Reconnect with the reason you chose each other, because when love is backed by purpose, it's not just a feeling that comes and goes. It's a foundation that holds strong no matter what life throws your way. One of the most common misconceptions in relationships is the belief that chemistry is everything. We often hear people say, there's just no chemistry, or we have great chemistry, as if this invisible spark is the ultimate proof of a relationship's potential. Chemistry feels exciting, intoxicating, and magical. It's that rush of butterflies, the flutter in your chest, the intense attraction that makes time stand still. But chemistry alone is not enough. And confusing it with compatibility is one of the biggest reasons relationships fail. Chemistry is like the flame that ignites a fire. It's beautiful and captivating, but it's only the beginning. The problem is that chemistry is temporary by nature. It's often fueled by novelty, mystery, and idealized versions of each other. When two people first meet, their brains release a cocktail of hormones: dopamine, adrenaline, oxytocin, that make everything seem thrilling and perfect. This chemical reaction feels like love, but it's actually just the brain's way of saying, pay attention, this is important. It's an invitation, not a guarantee. Compatibility, on the other hand, is about the long game. It's the steady heat that keeps the fire going after the initial spark fades. It's about how two people live and work together day after day, how their values, priorities, communication styles, and emotional needs align. Compatibility is less glamorous, less immediate, and less obvious than chemistry. It requires awareness, effort, and understanding. The danger of confusing chemistry with compatibility is that many people rush into relationships based solely on that initial spark, hoping the rest will fall into place. They overlook critical questions like, do we share the same vision for our lives? Can we support each other through challenges? Are our core values aligned? Will we respect each other's differences? Without addressing these questions, the relationship becomes vulnerable to disappointment and disillusionment. Chemistry can blind us to red flags or incompatibilities because it creates a kind of emotional high that dulls our rational judgment. We may ignore warning signs or downplay serious issues simply because the feeling is so intense. But over time, as the brain adjusts and the hormones settle, that rush fades and reality steps in. If compatibility isn't there, the relationship feels strained, difficult, or unsatisfying. The things that seemed minor or invisible during the honeymoon phase become sources of conflict. True compatibility doesn't mean that two people are exactly the same or that they never disagree. In fact, healthy relationships thrive on respectful differences and the ability to grow together. Compatibility means that two people can navigate those differences with empathy and respect. It means they share fundamental values and goals that provide a stable foundation. It means they communicate in ways that foster understanding, not frustration. Another key aspect of compatibility is emotional safety, the feeling that you can be your authentic self without fear of judgment or rejection. Chemistry might get two people in the door, but compatibility keeps them there because they feel truly seen, heard, and accepted. Emotional safety allows vulnerability, which is the gateway to deep intimacy and connection. When couples confuse chemistry with compatibility, they may feel confused or frustrated when things don't feel right after the initial excitement. They might blame themselves or their partner for the loss of passion, not realizing that what they really need is to build compatibility. This requires shifting focus from just feelings to actions, choices, and shared experiences that build trust and understanding. Building compatibility is a continuous process. It involves open communication, shared experiences, and the willingness to grow together. It means learning how to handle conflict constructively and how to support each other's growth. It means prioritizing the relationship as a partnership where both individuals contribute and adapt. So the lesson here is clear. Don't mistake the intensity of chemistry for the stability of compatibility. Chemistry can bring two people together, but compatibility is what allows them to stay together. It's the difference between a fleeting spark and a lasting flame. When you understand this, you can approach relationships with more clarity and intention, looking beyond the rush of emotion to what really matters for the long term. The best relationships are those where chemistry and compatibility exist side by side, where the spark lights the way, but the steady flame is fueled by shared values, mutual respect, and deep understanding. Recognizing this distinction is one of the most important steps toward building a relationship that not only starts well, but lasts well. One of the silent killers of relationships is the way we handle our needs and expectations. It's so common and yet so damaging. We expect our partner to know what we want without ever saying a word. We expect them to read our minds, to understand our moods, and to meet our needs without clear communication. But expecting without communicating is a recipe for disappointment and distance. At the start of a relationship, there's often a natural flow of communication. We share our feelings, our desires, and our boundaries. But over time, many couples fall into a dangerous pattern of assumption. We stop expressing ourselves clearly and start hoping our partner will just get it. We expect them to notice when we're upset or stressed, to know what kind of support we need, or to realize what we want without being told. This pattern is problematic because it puts an unfair burden on the other person. No matter how well your partner knows you, they are not a mind reader. They cannot intuitively know your thoughts or feelings if you don't express them. Expecting otherwise leads to frustration on both sides. One person feels unseen and unheard, while the other feels blamed or criticized for something they didn't realize was expected. What makes this even more challenging is that many of us grew up learning that expressing needs or emotions is a sign of weakness or selfishness. We're taught to be strong, to manage on our own, and not to burden others with our feelings. So instead of asking for what we want, we bottle it up and hope our partner will just understand. But silence isn't strength. It's a wall that builds distance and misunderstanding. When communication breaks down, resentment starts to grow quietly. Small disappointments pile up and are never addressed. Why didn't you notice I was upset? Why didn't you call when you said you would? Why don't you appreciate what I do? These questions aren't productive because they are rooted in unspoken expectations. They create a blame game that pulls partners apart rather than bringing them together. Clear communication is the antidote. It's not always easy or comfortable to say what we need, but it is necessary. When we communicate openly, we invite our partner into our world. We share our vulnerabilities and allow connection to deepen. Instead of assuming, we clarify. Instead of blaming, we express. Instead of frustration, we create understanding. Communication is also an act of kindness. It's saying, I want you to know what's happening inside me so we can grow stronger together. It's trusting your partner enough to be honest about your needs, and it's giving them the chance to respond with care and support. Without communication, love becomes a guessing game, and relationships become fragile. Expecting instead of communicating also sets unrealistic standards. It assumes that our partner should be perfectly attuned to every mood or desire without ever having to ask. But relationships are not mind-reading competitions. They are partnerships built on mutual effort and respect. When both people take responsibility for sharing their needs, the relationship thrives. There's a beautiful freedom in honest communication. It frees us from the burden of silent expectations and opens the door to real intimacy. When we say what we want and feel, we give our partner the gift of clarity. We stop guessing and start understanding. We build trust because honesty is the foundation of connection. It's important to remember that communication is a skill, not a natural talent. It takes practice, patience, and sometimes courage. We may fear rejection or conflict, but avoiding communication only prolongs problems. Facing conversations with kindness and openness is how relationships evolve from good to great. And in the end, the reason many relationships fail isn't because of a lack of love or effort, it's because of a lack of communication. Love needs words to breathe. It needs expression to grow. When we stop expecting silently and start communicating boldly, we build bridges instead of walls. We create spaces where both partners feel seen, heard, and valued. So the next time you find yourself feeling frustrated or disconnected, ask yourself, what am I expecting that I haven't said? And then take the courageous step to say it out loud. Because love isn't a mind reader, it's a conversation. One of the most destructive patterns in relationships is the tendency to prioritize being right over being connected. This may seem harmless at first. After all, who doesn't want to be understood and have their perspective respected? But when the need to prove a point or win an argument outweighs the desire to maintain a connection, relationships start to unravel. It's natural to want validation for our beliefs and feelings. We want to be seen as reasonable, fair, and correct. But when we insist on being right at all costs, we risk damaging the very bond that holds us together. The pursuit of being right becomes a battlefield where the goal shifts from understanding to defeating. This mindset puts ego before empathy and pride before partnership. When we prioritize being right, we stop listening. Instead of genuinely hearing our partner's perspective, we're busy crafting our next argument or defending our position. Communication becomes a competition rather than a conversation. We focus on winning instead of understanding, and in that shift, we lose sight of what really matters: connection. Connection is the foundation of any healthy relationship. It's what allows two people to feel safe, supported, and valued. But connection requires humility. The willingness to admit that we don't have all the answers and that our partner's viewpoint matters. It requires us to ask questions instead of making accusations, to seek to understand rather than to judge. The irony is that when we let go of the need to be right, we often gain something much more valuable: deeper trust and intimacy. When we choose connection over ego, we open the door to real dialogue. We invite our partner to share their feelings without fear of being dismissed or attacked. We create a space where vulnerability can thrive. Conflict itself is not the enemy in relationships. In fact, conflict is inevitable and necessary. It's how we handle conflict that determines the strength of the bond. When we make the relationship about being right, we escalate conflicts unnecessarily. We shut down empathy and increase defensiveness. But when we prioritize connection, conflict becomes an opportunity for growth, learning, and greater understanding. Choosing connection over being right means embracing curiosity. It means saying, "Tell me more about why you feel this way," instead of "you're wrong." It means listening with an open heart and an open mind. It means recognizing that being right is less important than being close. Because at the end of the day, a relationship where both people are willing to be vulnerable and flexible is stronger than one where both people are stubborn and defensive. Another challenge is that we often confuse being right with being respected, but respect in a relationship doesn't come from dominating the conversation or proving your point. It comes from mutual regard, kindness, and the willingness to understand each other's truth. When we prioritize connection, respect naturally follows because it is rooted in empathy. Choosing connection also means accepting that sometimes we will be wrong. That's not a weakness, it's a sign of emotional maturity. It takes courage to admit mistakes and to apologize. It takes humility to say, "I don't have all the answers." And it takes love to put the relationship above the need to win. When both partners commit to connection over being right, the dynamic of the relationship shifts profoundly. Arguments don't disappear, but they become less about power and more about partnership. Conversations become bridges rather than barriers. And the emotional distance shrinks. In reality, no one wins when we prioritize being right over connection. The cost is too high: loneliness, frustration, and emotional disconnection. But when we choose connection, the rewards are abundant: intimacy, trust, and a shared sense of safety. So the next time you find yourself caught in the need to prove a point or defend your position, pause and ask yourself, what's more important right now? Being right or being connected? Because choosing connection doesn't mean giving up your voice. It means speaking with love and listening with compassion. It means building a relationship where both people feel valued, understood, and loved, even when they disagree. And one of the quietest but most powerful reasons relationships fail is because we stop showing up consistently. Relationships aren't built on grand gestures alone. They are built on the small, everyday actions repeated over time. Love is not just a feeling. It's a commitment, a choice to show up for someone again and again, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, even when life gets busy. At the beginning of a relationship, we show up with enthusiasm and energy. We text, call, plan dates, and make an effort to be present. We listen carefully, laugh often, and put our partner's needs near the top of our priorities. But as time goes on, this effort can fade. We get comfortable. The initial urgency wears off, and life's responsibilities crowd in. Work pressures, family demands, personal stress. And suddenly, the little ways we showed up before become fewer and farther between. This gradual decline in showing up consistently isn't usually dramatic, it's subtle. Maybe it's forgetting to check in during a tough day. Maybe it's missing date nights or letting conversations be interrupted by distractions like phones or TV. Maybe it's not noticing when your partner needs support because you're too caught up in your own world. But these small absences add up. They send a silent message that the relationship isn't as important as it once was, or as important as other things in life. Showing up consistently isn't just about physical presence. It's about emotional availability and engagement. It means being there, not just in body, but in mind and heart. It means listening deeply, offering empathy, and making your partner feel valued and prioritized. Consistency creates trust because it says you can count on me. It builds security because it shows commitment beyond the fleeting moments of passion. When we stop showing up, the relationship starts to feel like a place where one or both partners are alone. The connection weakens. The emotional distance grows. It's easy to confuse this with fading love, but often the love is still there. The problem is that love needs action to thrive. Without consistent effort, love struggles to survive. Another danger of inconsistency is that it creates uncertainty and insecurity. When your partner can't predict if you'll be there or if you'll check in, it's hard to feel safe. Insecurity breeds anxiety, jealousy, and doubt. Instead of feeling like a team, you start to feel like you're on your own, wondering if the relationship is a priority or just an option. But consistency is a choice, and it's one that every relationship needs to survive and grow. It's not about perfection. No one can be perfectly present every moment. But it's about the commitment to keep trying, to keep showing up even when it's challenging. It means apologizing when you've been distant and recommitting to being there. It means making small but meaningful gestures every day. A text to say, thinking of you, a hug after a long day, listening without distractions, or simply spending quality time together. Consistency also creates space for growth. When both partners show up reliably, they create an environment where trust can deepen and vulnerability can flourish. They build a relationship where challenges feel manageable because they know they're not facing them alone. They develop a bond that weathers life's inevitable storms. When we prioritize showing up consistently, we prioritize our partner and our relationship. We say with our actions that this connection matters. We build a foundation strong enough to hold us through the ups and downs, the surprises and struggles. Love then becomes more than just a feeling. It becomes a habit, a practice, and a shared commitment. So if you find yourself feeling disconnected or frustrated, take a moment to reflect. Are you showing up consistently? Are you fully present, emotionally available, and engaged? Because relationships don't thrive on luck or chance. They thrive on the steady, deliberate choice to show up, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. One of the most overlooked reasons relationships fail is because two people stop growing together. Growth is not just an individual journey, it's a shared adventure that needs to happen within the relationship itself. When two people grow apart instead of together, the distance between them widens, and what once was a source of connection becomes a source of disconnection. Growth means change. It means evolving through new experiences, learning from challenges, and adapting to life's inevitable shifts. When we enter a relationship, we bring our own dreams, habits, and ways of being. Over time, these things will naturally evolve. The question is whether this evolution happens side by side or separately. When couples grow together, they learn new things about each other and themselves. They expand their horizons and build a shared vision for their future. Growth encourages curiosity about the other person's thoughts, feelings, and dreams. It creates opportunities for mutual support and inspiration. Together, they become better versions of themselves, supported by a partner who is engaged and present. But when couples stop growing together, they stop investing in each other's development. One or both may become complacent, stuck in old patterns or routines. They may resist change because it's uncomfortable or threatens the status quo. When that happens, the relationship can feel stagnant, predictable, and uninspired. Without growth, it's easy for resentment, boredom, and frustration to creep in. The reality is that growth requires effort, intention, and vulnerability. It's not always easy or comfortable. It means stepping outside of your comfort zone, having honest conversations about where you want to go in life, and supporting your partner's journey even when it challenges you. It means embracing change, not fearing it. When couples fail to grow together, they often drift apart without even realizing it. They stop dreaming together and start living parallel lives. Communication becomes superficial, and emotional connection weakens. The bond that once felt strong now feels distant. Growth together also means growing through conflict and challenges. Relationships will inevitably face hard moments, disagreements, disappointments, life stressors. The couples that grow together use these moments as opportunities to learn, to understand each other more deeply, and to strengthen their bond. They don't avoid conflict or let problems fester. They face them with courage and cooperation. Another key part of growing together is celebrating each other's successes and supporting each other's goals. When one partner pursues a new passion or overcomes a challenge, growth together means sharing in that joy and encouraging continued progress. This creates a sense of partnership where both individuals feel motivated and valued. Stagnation in growth can sometimes mask itself as comfort or stability, but in reality it can be the beginning of emotional distance. Comfort can be deceiving because it might feel safe, but without growth, safety turns into stagnation. Relationships that don't evolve risk becoming relationships of habit rather than choice. Partners who stay together because it's familiar, not because they are actively choosing each other every day. To grow together, couples must create space for ongoing dialogue about their dreams, fears, and aspirations. They must be willing to adapt and evolve, not only as individuals, but as a unit. This requires empathy, patience, and a commitment to keep learning about each other throughout the relationship. When growth is a shared priority, the relationship becomes a source of strength and inspiration. It becomes a place where both people feel challenged and supported to be their best selves. It becomes a partnership where love is not static but alive and dynamic, capable of weathering change and emerging stronger. Ultimately, the choice to grow together is a choice to stay connected through life's twists and turns. It's a commitment to evolve side by side, to be curious about each other, and to build a future that reflects both partners' growth. When couples embrace this choice, they create a relationship that not only survives but thrives, a relationship full of life passion and deep connection.